everybody, I'm Natalia Bonner. All right, so over the last few weeks, I've shared a few sneak peeks of this amazing traverse quilt. And today I have one more sneak peek. Now I do have a full, in-depth, exclusive video where I'll take you through my entire process, quilting every single row on this amazing traverse quilt. The video will be available soon in the Piece N Quilt Academy. So you can find all the details plus enroll in the Piece N Quilt Academy on our website, pieceandquilt.com. Plus, when you enroll, you gain access to over 130 other machine quilting videos where I show you how I quilt quilts from start to finish. It's a great resource for any machine quilter. All right, so today we're going to be focusing on some fun little flying geese blocks. These blocks were perfect to use my sway machine quilting rulers. So in today's video, of course, I'm going to be doing a little bit of marking and then a bit of quilting. I'm going to be quilting these flying geese using my Sway 4 machine quilting ruler, as well as the Sway 3 machine quilting ruler. I'll be doing all of my marking here with the blue Mark Be Gone marker. And then because my flying geese are multicolored and I am using a lot of different thread colors on this amazing quilt, today I'm going to be working with So Fine color number 448, so that's what I'll use in all my green sections. And then in all my pink sections, I'm using So Fine color number 495. So these are the colors you'll see on the top. In my bobbin, I have been loving the pre-wound super bobs lately, so that's what I'm going to be using in my bobbin. This quilt actually has a minky backing that just quilted up so beautifully, but because of that, I actually stuck with a neutral thread color across the entire backing of this quilt. All right, so the batting that I am using here today is one layer of the Quilter's Dream blend batting. This quilt was made by my client Teresa, and she really wanted the quilt to stay nice and soft. And this batting, along with the minky backing and the machine quilting, it really just stayed nice and soft. I love how it turned out. So friends, I've got the quilt all loaded onto my machine. Let's hop over to the machine and let's get stitching. I love the little bit of detail I'm able to add to these adorable flying geese using the Sway 3 and Sway 4 machine quilting rulers. Let's start out with a little bit of marking. So the line that I'm going to start out marking is just a reference line. So I'm going to be quilting point to point curved lines. So I'm just using that straight side of the Sway 4 machine quilting ruler, and I'm lining it up through all of the points and just marking a straight line all the way through. Now I am going to next use that hook end on the end of the Sway 4 machine quilting ruler to mark out the designs that I'm going to be quilting. Often I'll do this on the first couple of like flying geese or whatever my design is, really just to give me an idea of what the design is going to look like. It's a lot easier to mist away marked lines than it is to unpick. Trust me, I've done both many times. Anyways, so to mark out this design here, I'm using that hook end and I'm marking across the top side or the right side here on each of these flying geese. I am marking first a point to point curve. Next, I'm adjusting the Sway 4 machine quilting ruler, the hook end of that ruler, so that that dashed line on the ruler will line up with that top point on the flying geese. Once I line it up like that, then I'm going to mark a line that goes from the outside corner right up to the center marked line, and then repeat that process on the opposite side. So I'm going to repeat that same process, first marking the point to point curves on the outside, that top outside of the triangle, and then adjust the ruler so that the dashed line intersects the top of the triangle and mark that line. I'm going to repeat this process on several of these flying geese just so that we have reference lines, but once you have a reference point, you can actually quilt out the design with a little bit less marking. Next up, I'm ready to begin machine quilting. So I tell you all the time, but I just love the look of Stitch in the Ditch. So I'm going to start out by stitching in the ditch around each of these triangles. Well, actually, I'll do it as I'm going. So I start out by using that straight side of the Sway 4 machine quilting ruler to stitch around that top side of the triangle. Once I've stitched around that top side, and I'm calling the right side the top side, it just feels like it's the top of a flying geese, but just for reference. So once I've stitched around that top side, now I'm going to work back and forth between that circular end of the Sway 4 machine quilting ruler, as well as the concave side of the Sway 4 machine quilting ruler. Now, whenever I'm using machine quilting rulers, I am guiding my machine with my right hand, and then I'm using very gentle pressure and holding the ruler with my left hand. So I'm always trying to hold the ruler in a position where it's really comfortable for my body. I don't want to be in awkward positions trying to hold a ruler. Personally, I found that when I try to do that, my quilting doesn't end up as smooth. If I'm in a comfortable position, I end up with better results. So that's why I designed the Sway machine quilting rulers, so that you can always hold your ruler in a really comfortable position towards your body. And for me, generally, it's more on the left side. So as you can see here, I'm repeating that process, stitching around the flying geese, and then essentially just stitching right on top of those marked lines. As I'm working through this process, though, you will also notice that when I stitch that second set of curved lines, so the smaller set, the one on the inside, I am also using the markings on the Sway 4 machine quilting ruler. I'm lining up that dashed line on that concave side of the ruler on top of the marked line that goes right through the center. So when I line up that dashed line there, then I can stitch right to that center point with the proper spacing, or the spacing that I'm choosing each time. So I'll repeat that process, and again, look closely now on this last flying geese unit as I start out by stitching in the ditch, and I don't have those curved lines marked there. So I'll start first with the circular end, stitch my point-to-point curve, then I'll use the concave side of the ruler, stitch my second curve, then adjust the ruler so that dash line intersects there at the bottom, and then back to the circle end to stitch to where I started. Always remember when quilting a design like this that you want to hold your ruler 1/4 of an inch away from where you want your thread to intersect. So once I've used my pink thread to stitch on all of those flying geese units, so all the way across the whole row, now I'm going to switch to my Sway 3 machine quilting ruler, and I'm also going to change my thread color. So now I've got green thread. On the outside, in those small green triangles, I am going to use the Sway 3 machine quilting ruler to stitch point-to-point curved lines. Now you will notice on the circle end of the Sway 3 machine quilting ruler, there is a line that intersects the end of the ruler that's 1/4 of an inch away. I am lining that line up on the edge of this flying geese unit. The size is perfect. By doing that, I'm able to hold the ruler right on that marked line and stitch those perfect point-to-point curves. Now, coming back across the bottom side, generally I'll stitch all the way across like the top side, and then come back across the bottom, just like you can see here. This time though, like I mentioned, it's more comfortable to hold the Sway machine quilting ruler closer to my body. So I'm holding that concave side of the Sway 3 machine quilting ruler to stitch those point-to-point curves, making sure that I hold that ruler 1/4 of an inch away from where I want that thread to intersect. And you can see it just creates a tiny bit of extra interest by using the combination of the Sway 3 and the Sway 4 machine quilting rulers. I absolutely love how this awesome quilt is turning out. Make sure that you do check out the Piece N Quilt Academy. You can subscribe today and gain instant access to over 130 machine quilting video tutorials. Find all the details on our website, pieceandquilt.com.
Why do cows wear bells? Because their horns don't work.